Hello, and welcome to the Ag Culture Podcast, where we cultivate tomorrow by inspiring agripreneurs and ag innovators through real-life perspectives in agriculture. I'm Paul Windemuller, your host on this journey of exploration and growth. Today, I had the honor to speak with Sophie Gregory from Somerset, United Kingdom. Sophie and her husband, Tom, are first-generation farmers, much like my wife and I, and run a mixed-use and dairy farm there in southern England. Sophie was a 2021 UK Dairy Industry Woman of the Year. She's also on the board of directors for Arla Dairy Co-op, which is a very large dairy co-op in Europe. And also, like myself, she is a 2024 Nuffield Scholar. Today, I had talked with Sophie so much that I had to break this interview down into two separate episodes. So this episode, Sophie and I talk mostly about her farming story, about how she got involved in agriculture as a first-generation farmer. And next week, we will go into more on her business as the farm, how it's set up, and her off-farm experiences as well, and industry roles that she has. So please stay tuned for this interview with Sophie Gregory. Well, Sophie Gregory, welcome to the show today. And it's great to have you. I believe it's nighttime in the UK where you're at, and it's in the afternoon where I am today. And really appreciate you coming on the show. You've got a lot of great subjects and topics to talk about. I'm really excited to delve into that with you. So welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm really excited to be here.
Why don't you start out? Well, I guess one thing I want to point out that I'm really excited about is you and your husband both started your dairy farm together about 9 years ago. That's when my wife and I started. So we're relatively the same timeline in our ownership careers in farming. Very involved with your cooperative and very engaged through social media. So I'm really excited to have those things in common with you and to discuss those with you today, as well as many other topics. So if you could tell our listeners a little bit about your operation and how that got started, we'll just start there.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so probably start at the beginning. So I met Tom when I was 17 and he was 18. And well, right from the moment I met him, he always said he wanted to go back dairy farming. His dad had come out of dairy farming and the family farm had been rented out. The other family farm was still being run by the grandparents. And I was not from agriculture at all. I thought it was a crazy idea. I then had a baby at 18. We hadn't been together that long. And he kept going with this idea and we went for a few different tenancies. So property to rent, like farms to rent. And then in 2014, the year after we got married, this farm came up about an hour from where we were living. And farms this sort of size don't really come up very often. So the people before had gone bankrupt, and so it come to the market to be rented, and there was a lot of interest. The milk price was very high. I didn't know what it was like in America at that time, but it was really, really pumping, the milk price, and everyone wanted this farm.
Same here.
Yeah. And so we never thought we had a chance. We went in with a business partner. Because it's a big farm, needed quite a lot of capital, and we had a proportion of the capital. So we went in at 20%, he went in at 80%. And we started with 280 cows in March 2014, organic, rearing all the heifers in-house. It's 600 acres. So what's that in hectares? Do you do it in hectares or acres over with you?
Acres in the U.S.
Oh, okay,
we got a lot of international audience as well. So either one works.
Okay, cool. So I'm better with acres. So it was like just under 600 acres. 280 cows, spring calving, just one block. So then with the aim that we'd buy our business partner to 50-50, and we did that by year 5, so about 4 years ago. And then at the moment we're just buying him out the rest of it. So then it will be just us here. So yeah, we got it. It was a total roller coaster. There was no way we thought we were ever going to get it. There was a lot of interest, even from Ireland, all over the place. But I think they like the idea of a young team being here, but with an experienced business partner. So that's probably why we paid quite a good rent as well. Well, I say quite good, a strong rent, a very strong rent. It was really the only way to get the farm, I think. So yeah, the business looks quite different to that now, but that's where we started from.
And you said it was all spring calving when you started at that facility. Is that something that you're continuing with, where it's just spring calving, or do you spring and fall calving?
So now the farm now is probably actually a mixed farm. So it's not just dairy. So we are about 1,400 acres in total now. It's about we'll milk 400 cows this year, 100 autumns, about 300 spring calvers. So yeah, the autumns calve sort of mid-August to end of October, and then the springs are March and April. So 2 like 8 to 9 week blocks. Only dairy replacements are born in the spring to try and keep it simple. The rest calve to beef. So we just want them, they're all to sex semen. We want them in sort of the first 10 days of that block. So they're all the same age and they can be calved down at 2. So we've got about 300 acres of arable. The rest supports the dairy. And then we've got beef as well. We keep probably 40 a year of the beef. Some of that goes through beef boxes. Some of that just goes straight through the supply chain. And then we've got a rare breed of white parks, they're fully white, black noses, huge horns, quite magical looking. But they're on a sort of conservation project. So they're like just a separate thing, but they're part of the business. So it is actually a mixed farm now, but it's very much started with, just a core spring calving, spring calving farm.
And when you started, it was already certified organic at that time, or is that a process that you went through?
No, so it had been organic previously. How long ago? I think it was probably about 4 or 5 years before we took it on. It had been organic. Okay. They came out of organic, went conventional, went very high input, but I don't think they got the yields, if that makes sense. They went all in, machinery and everything, but they didn't see the yields, I don't think. I never met the people here before, but it was a very different system. So then we had to go back organic. So we had to convert the land, etc. So we've been organic for 9 years. So we did a fast track. We fed organic feed, bought organic cows, just to fast track it, because it's supposed to be 2 years, but you can fast track it, backdate it if the land, because the people before had been out for 6 months already. They'd come out of the farm 6 months before, so nothing had been done, no nitrogen, nothing had been applied. So yeah, it was. We're quite committed to organic, and so is our landlord now, I think. I don't think if we said we want to go conventional, I don't think he'd probably be on board with that.
Okay. So that was a conscious decision that you and your husband went into that operation with, even if you got a different property, that was the route that you guys wanted to go?
If I'm being honest now, at the beginning, it was because the farm was set up for 300 cows and we probably milked 500 if it was conventional. So the farm was like the buildings, the parlour, everything was really set for sort of 300 cows, like cubicles and everything. We can just about do it on 2 different blocks, as that's why we block 2 different block calves. But actually, to not have to invest organic, we were getting quite a good premium then. It's quite different now. The premium's like probably half nearly what we were getting back then. So financially, the budgets looked a lot better. So originally, it actually wasn't about organic at all. And I'm quite happy to say that, because I didn't really understand much about and nor did he knew about farming. But he had no sort of love affair with organic. Whereas now I think that's what organic either sucks you into it and makes you think, oh yeah, this is how we want to farm, or you just get really annoyed with it and go back to conventional. But yeah, I think I'm not saying we wouldn't do a conventional farm at all, but this farm actually suits being organic because of the size of it with the buildings that we've got. And it's just, you'd come here and be like, this feels organic. It's quite hard to explain. It's just it's full of wildlife. It just likes being organic.
And so you still have, like you said, you still have freestall or cubicle barn setups as well to put them in for wintering.
Yeah. So we've got about three. So we've got two. It's about 320 cubicles down the bottom, and then we've got another 100 cubicles at the top. So when we dry cows off for the spring to calve, 100, the first lot due, will go up to the top, and then they'll come back down. And so we're only milking 180 cows at the moment because we've dried everything off ready for calving. So we will actually get down to 140 at probably by next month. We have about a month of, if February is like 140 milking, because they're just the spring, they're the autumn calvers plus the ones that didn't get in calf we tried to get in calf. We only swing once, so you can go spring to autumn, but you can't go back round. So our autumn replacements are made from the spring. We're quite strict about that because otherwise I think you end up with a bit of a free for all. And like animals that have been in milk for 500 days, our type of cows dry up. They just wouldn't, they're doing 5 and a bit thousand litres. They're not going to keep going for 500 days. So that's why.
Off-farm things as well. So how does that fit into your operation?
So I suppose the cows, I run the cows, the herd, with a girl called Lottie, who's like my right-hand girl. She's 5 days a week. And she lives on the farm. She's 20, exceptional, like really exceptional. She'll tell you this herself, but she doesn't really like people. Like she embraces some people, but she's a cow person. So when I'm
really good cow people are big people fans.
I think so. And she's fantastic. And then Tom will help with the cows when he does all the feeding. He does the arables, all the maintenance, silaging, all of that. And he easily could do the cows. He knows about cows. He is a stockman, but his focus is more on the grass and management, all of that side. And he also, like, his probably milking wise, we don't have a great parlour at the moment. It's just not, the flow isn't very great in there, and he's quite used to efficient things. So he just got to the point it was quite frustrating for him. So he's just, I still love it in there. So I'm not at that. So I do a lot of milking. So does Lottie. We've got Sam, who does a lot of the tractor work. He's on an apprenticeship, like a college apprenticeship. So he does a day a week, supposed to do a day a week at college, but he's stopped that now because he's nearly finished. So he's nearly got his. And then I've got 2 part-time girls as well, who are both college students. One does a day a week, and then one does 2 days 1 week, 3 the next. So they just fill in wherever the gaps are. They can, all of them can milk. Everyone can milk. That's one of the stipulations, that if something happened or anyone can milk the cows. But when I'm away,
You have 6 on your team total?
Yeah,
then?
6 on our team, but they're not full. So 3 of them would be part-time, if that makes sense. So they all sort of cover each other, if that makes sense. And because it's the arable too, and then we probably rear 200 heifers plus the beef. It's quite a lot of animals. And we outwinter, all the heifers are outwintered. So they're on bales and silage. So it's not just a case of it being in the barn.
Right.
It's like fences. It's still quite a lot of stock work over the winter. So my off-farm work, Tom will cover cows, and also my dad comes and does the kids. That's like the big thing. Like he comes and helps with the kids because I've got 3 young children, 14, 12 and 5. So so my dad comes and helps with them. So he will help with stock, but he won't milk the cows. He's always said.
How do the kids interact on the farm? Are they a pretty big part of it? Do they spend a lot of time on the farm?
So my eldest is actually away at school. He comes home most weekends, but he's very sporty and got on a scholarship there. He's very good with the tractor, can scrape up, can feed. He's pretty good. He's pretty helpful. And we pay them all. So like he's paid, if he does it, he's paid like anyone else would be paid. He has to do a timesheet. And then the middle one, Evie, is not particularly, I think she loves animals, but she's not engaged in the milking at all at the moment. And then the 5-year-old's just happy. Cecily's happy doing anything. She just fits in. Tell
me about your involvement off the farm. What got you into, I know you have quite a big social media presence. You've got a lot of followers. And what got you into doing that? I think it was like determination to show the industry as somewhere fun to work. Dairy is something great to drink, and nutrition. And actually that, there was so much, I felt there was quite an attack on
dairy farming, if that makes sense. So I felt like there was a bit of, not an attack, but, it's sort of, I just wanted to be able to tell our story. I started doing it and I stopped for a bit. And then friends were like, no, we love it. We're living in London. We really want to see what the cows are doing. We might have been vegan if not, just that kind of, and also just learn from other people doing stuff on there who are farming. I've made some great friends through it. And I actually really enjoy it. I try and be quite disciplined about it, as in not, constantly have it. I only probably post when I'm in the house. So I record stuff and then put them on when I'm in the house because I don't really get signal on the farm. So I just enjoy, and people just enjoy learning about where their food's from. I think that was my biggest thing, trying to get people into the industry working, and also, trying to get people to drink dairy, eat dairy, enjoy dairy without being guilty, without feeling guilty about it.
Why do you think there is that stigma? I know there is that in the U.S. That stigma for dairy had been around for a little bit. Butter has definitely seemed to gotten over that in the U.S. How is it in the U.K.?
Butter. I mean, butter, I've only ever known butter in a good way. But I don't know if that's my generation, because that spread stuff sort of ended up being quite pushed down, if that makes sense. Like, yeah. I think there was a whole thing about it being made for pigs or something. I don't know, margarine or something to fatten pigs. So right. I've only ever grown up with just eating butter. It's never been, actually, I don't even think any of my friends have been like, oh, you shouldn't drink, you shouldn't eat butter. Or if anything, it's been like the fresh milk people have been more about. Like they've swapped out, oat milk. It's become trendy, and that's what they've more in coffees and stuff rather than natural butter. If that makes sense. Mm-hmm. I haven't seen it so much. And cheese, people seem to forget cheese comes from dairy. They don't really even if they're vegan, they kind of think, I don't know if that's the right thing.
Cheese is okay.
Yes, okay.
Just,
you know what I mean?
Good, right?
Not to drink, eat even, isn't it?
Right. Tell me a little bit about your involvement with Arla, your co-op.
Yeah. I suppose I've been involved for probably 2 years. I did a few bits before that, but I've been actually involved in like a representation role for the last 2 years nearly. It's coming up to elections now. So and I just did it. A friend really encouraged me to do it, and they had done it in the past, and I was sort of ready to step outside of the farm and step outside my comfort zone. So that was sort of the step. And then off that, I took the step to do Nuffield. So it was sort of a real, it was a real stepping stone, I suppose. And it's been really good for me, and I really hope to be re-elected. It's a lot of people on there have been on there a long time. There's, it is a real mixture. There's lots of younger ones, and I suppose, I don't know if I'm the disruptive one. I don't try to be, but I'm also really felt it was important that organic had its view. There's one other organic farmer on there. We have quite a small proportion of that pool anyway. We're only about 5% of the total pool would be organic. So actually, it's probably the right representation. Only 2 of us out of 29. But I just thought it was really important that we were represented and our type of farming was represented. But you have to be quite open-minded to be on a board like that, because they are all different systems, and that is really important too. So like from robotics like yours to fully housed to grazing to organic to once a day, no cake, all systems in ours, especially in the UK, because we can be grazing to like unable to graze up and, right up in the snowy Scotland. It's so regional too.
Right. Very similar to that in the U.S. with the co-op that I'm involved with. There's so many different ways to farm, and you really need to have all the viewpoints represented in order for everyone to really make good decisions as a co-op that's that diverse, I think. Yeah. So where you're at in the UK, I guess I didn't even really explain that to the audience, right? You're in the United Kingdom. Yeah. What part of the United Kingdom are you located in?
So Dorset, Devon border. So if you were to look at England, bottom left, not right down the bottom, just along that bottom coastline.
So by Bath?
Yeah, about an hour from Bath, down.
South of Bath, yeah. Okay.
South of Bath, yeah.
Right. I know where London and Bath are, and the bigger towns, but
it's a lovely part of the world. We can see the sea from some of the farm.
Okay. And I guess you are able to graze all year round your heifers, you said, right?
Yeah, I mean, it gets challenging this time of year, but we're regularly, so the big ones have come home to calve now. So like the coming up 2-year-olds have come home to calve, and then the little ones still will stay out. So they're on like what we call like a herbal lay. So like loads of different herbs, like plantain, chicory, timothy, like lots of different herbs in one paddock. And then they're on bales, which are either silage bales or haylage, like hay. And then we put ring feeders around them. And then I think you guys do it in America too. And then fence, and they're just moved really regularly on that.
Yeah. I mean, you got the Woman of the Year award in 2021, right?
Yeah. That was
how did that come about?
Well, it was a girl Rachel, who's brilliant. She worked for us. So basically she I don't know if I assume that you guys do milk recording. So record your milk quality and your of each cow. Do you guys do that regularly? Yeah.
Yep.
Probably the robots do it automatically.
Yeah, my farm we haven't done it since we had robots, since they do it now.
Yeah. But so we do it, we were doing it monthly, we do it 6 weekly now. But we had a girl in that was helping us do it. And she was like really desperate to get back into farming. She'd grown up on a farm. Dad had been a farmer, but she has 6 kids. So she finds it really difficult to like work it around them. And I was like, oh, why don't you just come and rear some calves with us in the spring? And she was really good. And then she went on and took on a full-time job on another. We didn't have a full-time job then, on another farm, then went to another farm. And she's now down the road working for someone. And she actually nominated me. So it was so I had no idea. And then I had this thing through, and then I had this thing saying that was in the final. And then we just had an interview, and it was it was sort of the end of COVID. And so it was all online, and I never thought I'd win it. But I think most of it was because of my like real want to get people into the industry. And also for the education stuff I do with kids and stuff. So some of the charity work I do is to do with explaining to children where their food comes from, getting them out on farm. We go into local shows, local schools, with this cow called Clover, who's a like wooden milking cow, and we then show people where milk's from, really. And there's loads of different farmers who either sheep farmers, arable farmers, and they all get involved and share their story basically. So I think that's why I won it. But it was like a real stepping stone for me, because before that I really wasn't doing anything off farm. So it's been really good for me. And I did an amazing course after that called Just Farmers, which is like a media training course set up by a Nuffield scholar actually to train farmers to deal with the media, because she was a journalist and she didn't feel like our stories were told by us. So she just created this 4-day course. It was 2 lots of 2 days to teach us to deal with the media. And then that just gave me the confidence to do more and more. And I did.
And that was kind of the stimulus to the social media interactions that you had.
I mean, I was doing it a bit before, but I didn't really have any skill set in it at all. And I just sort of did random. And I mean, nothing is like timed or anything. I'm not very good at doing that sort of like timed when it is and stuff. And I'm still very much, it is who I am. But it gave me the confidence, I suppose, more than anything else. But yeah, it was an amazing award to get. It just gave me some confidence, because I call myself fraud on the farm, because I still feel like I'm sort of making it up as I go along.
Yeah, that's a interesting path that might be good to go down. So there's most farmers that I know, they grew up on a farm, and they came from a farming family. And I feel a lot like you, a lot of things that I do, I just kind of, I don't know if it's right or if it's wrong. We're just going to go with it. And it seems to be the right path forward. Have you made some mistakes doing that you look back on and say, ooh, I really wish we could have done that different? Or do you feel like that's given you more freedom to farm the way that you really feel fits you?
I think because I trained as an accountant before I went into the farm, I think I've always had an eye on the numbers. And I think it's always been really important for us for it to make money enough to be able to do it, if that makes sense. So I've always got that side of it, looking at it. So I suppose I look at it a different way. But I suppose the only thing that I would say that I haven't done enough of is taking risks. So I think like I probably haven't pushed our business hard enough, if that makes sense. My husband probably would have pushed it harder, because I'm very risk adverse.
Okay.
So I like the fact that, we built up the capital, bought our business partners 50-50, buying him out. Whereas I think my husband probably would have liked to have done another farm before, we're taking another farm, we're 4 sites now, but it's like he probably would have gone in for another dairy farm. But it's probably me a little bit, but I suppose we've got more flexibility for that. And I hope NAFA would then give me the confidence to do a bit more, if that makes sense.
So do you regret not taking more risk, or do you think that's just your personality and that's the way that you feel comfortable running your business?
I think I don't regret it while the kids are young. I think I wouldn't really want to be highly geared while the kids are young, I think. I don't know really. Not a good enough opportunity hasn't come. We've looked at other things, but not a good enough opportunity hasn't come to us. So I think it will. And that's probably why we've kept the autumn block as well, with the thought that will go to another farm and we'll go just back to spring. So it's there. We're ready to move. If not move as in from the farm, but we're ready to seize an opportunity if there is one.
Right.
Don't know if it'd be organic or conventional. It would depend on the farm. I'm not saying, and it would depend on the landlord as well. The long-term goal is to buy a plot of land, like a big enough, I'd love to buy a big enough farm that we could milk cows and stuff on it, but the land prices here are crazy. So like the ambition probably is to buy 50 acres and put a house on it, or, convert a barn or keep the farms going. And then we move off there, rear some young stock and stuff there. I don't know what it looks like in the future, but that's like probably our goal together.
I hope you enjoyed that episode with Sophie Gregory. And tune in next week, as this was the first part of our conversation. And next week, you'll hear the second part, again, talking about business and her industry experiences and roles that she has off the farm. And as always, if you found value in this episode, please share it with somebody that you know. We really appreciate it here at the Ag Culture Podcast. And check us out on social media. We're on LinkedIn. You can find me at Paul Windemaller on LinkedIn, or Ag Culture Podcast, as well as Ag Culture Podcast on Facebook and many of the other platforms that you like to use, Instagram and all those. So please like and subscribe, and we will talk to you next week.